Hello friends, welcome back to the hobby space. Today we are here to talk about something a little bit different. Nearly put it on the wrong way. We're here to talk about Heroquest. I was very lucky. This is the new Kickstarter edition of Heroquest that I know a lot of people are very excited about. I managed to pick up the last copy from Lazy Dragon Gaming while I was there at the weekend. But there are stores that backed the Kickstarter specifically to get extra copies to put on the shelves. And since leaving Lazy Dragon Gaming at the weekend, only yesterday in a Forbidden Planet I saw another copy of this. So I'm absolutely certain copies do still exist out there. And you might want one. You might be holding out because you're not quite sure what's different, what's new, what's in the box at all. So today that's what we're going to do. We're going to break it down and take a look at what the box contains, what you get for your money. It sells at around the 90 quid mark, if memory serves correctly, with 2 expansions currently being available that are about 25 quid each. I think all that information's accurate. I will be honest, I've not researched too deeply, because it's a board game. It's just a good bit of casual fun, and that's what I always loved about Heroquest. It's just a good way for 4 people to get together, throw some bones and have a laugh. You don't even need to paint the miniatures. Now Heroquest for me personally has a lot of nostalgia to it because this is kind of the game that started it all for me. I was just starting to get into miniatures and showing interest and Dungeons and Dragons and all of that kind of stuff around the time. And one of the first things that I really had a full fleshed out experience with in that kind of whole overarching nerdy genre was Heroquest. My brothers played with me extensively and we had a really good time with it. So this is it's not the genesis of my interest, but it's certainly the genesis of my involvement in the hobby. And so I was really keen to see how this has been revisited some 30 odd years later. So let's crack it open, let's take a look. I've already taken the seals off of it because I cannot be bothered with any more embarrassing unboxing things. We're going to take a look at what comes in Heroquest. You're going to have a flip between this camera angle, and I'm also going to show you some zooms of certain things if they're interesting, if they're worth showing zooms of. So hopefully you can get a good idea of what's in here and decide for yourselves if you think this is cool. Okay, so let's try and avoid suction forces and get the lid off this thing. I think we can do it. Okay. So the first thing we're greeted by is a box within a box, and I can already tell as soon as I handle this that it's a tray, and it's probably full of miniatures. So we've got one, and then there's another one here. This one's much lighter. And then we've got the board, and some extra cardboard stuff, and then there's just a spacer at the bottom of the box. This is, I already... YouTube secret, double checked this just to make sure that there were no surprises, and I already tried to check underneath this so I know it's just a spacer. So let's take a look at what's in these trays first of all. Okay, so opening this first one up, we're greeted by mostly furniture actually, which doesn't surprise me. Now I didn't realise before ordering this that everything in the old Heroquest used to come on sprues because it was manufactured by Games Workshop. This isn't anymore. These are PVC pieces coming out of China. So obviously you've got to have the PVC issues of mold lines and stuff like that, and they are going to be quite a lot of effort to clean up if you do want to do a really beautiful job on the whole set. But the advantage of PVC is that everything is coloured a little bit nicer. So most stuff is roughly the main colour you'd want to do it anyway, and that just makes things a little bit more passable if you want to use them uncovered. And looking through the furniture, we've got all the things that I remember. We've got the weapons rack, we've got the tables, we've got the alchemist's bench, which is something I very keenly remember. And the original alchemist bench actually used to come in multiple parts. This one looks like it's definitely cast in multiple parts, but it looks like it's pre-glued together to be a single assembly, so there's no gluing. We've got some rats, we've got some animal skulls, we've got the torture rack again. I remember the torture rack quite vividly. You know, it's probably, as a child, probably the first time I'd ever seen a torture rack, and I had to ask my older brothers to explain to me what that is. I'm not quite sure how they did that. There is the tomb, and everyone remembers the tomb. They've actually changed the sculpture of so on top of the tomb now is just a suit of armor, and I seem to remember it was like a long-haired, almost elven-looking character. Could be a sort of false memory, but I think they've actually changed the sculpt, and the lid comes off the tomb now, which is pretty dope. So that's kind of a new thing. You can presumably put something inside there. Other than that, we've got the usual smattering of bookcases and a bunch of these stone doorways. And these are like your main doorways now. You've got open ones and closed ones. And these are kind of your main way of marking out where doors are on the map now. So you put a closed one down and you can either replace it with an open one, or some doors will just be obviously already open and you won't need a closed one. Besides all that lovely furniture, there is all of the cards for the game. HeroQuest relies very heavily on its cards. And we're going to open them and just take a quick look at them. So what we're going to see is lots of treasure cards. First of all, there's gems and gold. There are hazard cards, various different traps and things like that. And then there are sort of magic items and more treasure. And wandering monster cards. I remember these. As you're searching an area, you can sometimes uncover a wandering monster encounter. And then we've got spells for the mage, rock skin, sleep, veil of mist, and all of that. Fireball. Fireball was always the big scary one. We've got quite a few equipment cards: helmet, longsword, plate mail, potion of speed, shield, all of that stuff. Pretty cool. Pretty damn cool. And then we've also got the monsters profile cards, which, unlike the original HeroQuest, have been jazzed up a bit with some nice new artwork. So we've got Dread Warrior, Abomination, Gargoyle, Goblin, Mummy, Orc, Skeleton, Zombie, and then the character cards for Barbarian, Dwarf, Elf, and Wizard. And then 4 little reminder cards that you can give to each player. And these reminder cards, the idea with these is that they tell you what you can do in a turn, so that you've got a quick reference in front of you at the table and you don't have to ask every turn. So it's a nice little game aid to help speed up gameplay. As well as that, we have got a thick pad of character sheets. There are a lot of character sheets on here. I would guess about 140, judging by the fact that it's about the same thickness as a 140-page A4 ring-bound book. So that's my educated guess, which is plenty. And obviously, if you run out, these are not hard to find online and print. In fact, one of the great things about HeroQuest getting a revival and there being so much interest in it lately is that there are a lot of third-party groups now who are doing both 3D printables for it and expansion rules for it. As well as that, obviously, all of this is great for using for D&D as well. There's nothing here that is the wrong scale and cannot be used to work for D&D. So there's a bunch of reasons why this is a wonderful set to pick up. But that's the first tray. I'm going to put the wrap back around this now. I'm going to have a look at what's in the second tray. I think that's where we're going to mostly see our miniatures. Okay, I have tray 2 in front of me. That's the wrong way up for you. There you go. That's probably a little more aesthetic for the video. I have tray 2, so let's again take the sleeve off this and have a look at what's inside it. Here is where the fun starts. We are greeted by, first of all, we've got the dice. There's the 2 ordinary D6s and then the combat dice. We've got completely new sculpts for all the miniatures in the new HeroQuest, which is pretty exciting. If you were a fan of the old ones, I'm sure we all remember things like the Gargoyle, which was iconic. The Gargoyle was kind of a slightly scaled down version of the original first edition Games Workshop Bloodthirster. And that was kind of why we all loved it so much, was because a lot of us would go and use it as a Bloodthirster in Warhammer Fantasy, and it felt like kind of cheating getting a Bloodthirster, which is an expensive model at the time, in this little board game. The new Gargoyle is not scaled that big. The new Gargoyle is scaled a little bit more realistically in proportion, but it looks great. It's a much... So it has a sword and an axe now, but the sword is still that same iconic serrated sword with the hook tip that the original one had. But proportionately, it makes more sense now. It looks smarter. The pose is a little bit more natural. Still looks a bit like it's having a poo, but it's HeroQuest, right? You kind of almost want some of that silliness because that's just extra nostalgia triggers. So we've got the Gargoyle. We've still got the Dread Knights. I can't remember what they call these fishmen in HeroQuest. I probably just passed the monster card for it and just didn't trigger to remember that. I've always known these as Saiyajin, but I don't know what HeroQuest calls them off the top of my head. I cannot remember, I cannot recall that information. But again, a really, really cool sculpt. They've got very sort of aquatic utilitarian looking weapons. You know, there's lots of sort of hooky Barbie kind of cutbacks on the weapons to make them look like they'd be good for catching prey and keeping it on the end. They look almost like B-movie, you know, like old monster movie kind of fishmen. They're very cool. We also get a bunch of orcs. I'm not going to pull any of those out, but I will show them to you in separate footage. We get a bunch of goblins. We get a few other odds and sods, some undead. We get the necromancer, the big bad guy, and then we get the 4-player character models, which again are all very changed. I'm sure we all again remember the iconic dwarf, and this new dwarf is pretty significantly changed from the old one. Great looking miniature, a lot more detail than they used to have. And actually, do you know what? For saying that I was suspicious that they're PVC, I think they probably are like a hardened PVC, but they're at the higher end of detail, right at the higher end of detail for PVC miniatures. I would put these on par, and in fact almost to the point where I would be suspicious of some sort of collaboration or shared production facility, but I would put these very close to Steamforged Games miniatures. So, and obviously I paint for Steamforged Games, so I have seen a lot of their miniatures up close. So if you're a fan of Steamforged, like their epic encounters and stuff like that, that'll give you a rough idea of like the detail level of quality. It is really the very top of what PVC can achieve. So although the material is associated with being a cheaper material and a bit of a pain in the arse material, I personally have moaned endlessly about prep for it. These are on the better end of what that material offers. So that's pretty cool. The next layer of stuff we have is more the sort of game playing stuff. So we have the board, which if you've never seen a Heroquest board before, I'll quickly unfurl it here so you can get an idea. My desk is 1.2 meters wide. So the board itself here is just under a meter, probably about 900, 950. It's pretty big. And again, it's a great board for doing D&D dungeon encounters on, because it's designed for you to just kind of only place doors where they actually exist and for people to just ignore the rooms that they don't have access to. It's a handy map to have, and if you already own D&D dungeon tiles, again, like I said, the furniture pieces from it are also compatible with those because it uses the same scale of 1-inch squares. But as a game board, as a board to play the game of Heroquest on, it's also fantastic. They've been They've taken a fairly sensible approach to this, not made it so big that it's going to be impossible to play on a dining table. But you will need a dining table. A dining table would be about another 6 to 12 inches at least bigger than my desk this way, and about another 2 feet bigger than my desk this way, which would pretty much exactly give you enough room to put this board in the middle and have 4 players sat around it. So it's pretty bang on for like a small 4-person dining table. And if you've got a 6 or an 8 or whatever, you know, a larger dining table, it's going to start to get even easier to fit it in from there. It's not a coffee table game, and that is worth noting. So when we play it, for example, we're going to be inviting my friends Paul and Ali over. Me, Paul, Ali and Jenny are all going to play together, and we're going to need to get our table extender out so that we can play on our coffee table. So it's going to take a little bit of extra finagling for us, but as long as you've got a available 4-person dining table, you should be all right. And then finally, the last thing in the box is the cardboard accessories. And a lot of this is kind of, there's not really much to talk about. It's like additional tiles for like secret passages in the walls, crumbling floors, stuff like that. There's like a staircase here, that kind of thing. This is just stuff that you overlay. You've got the rule book, which is ever so simple. I mean, the entire rule book is 23 pages. And the back page is game notes. So it's pretty obvious that this is a very simple game from a rules perspective. And then finally, there's the quest book, which is like the missions. That's what you're trying to do. It tells you how to lay out the dungeon, where monsters are, that kind of thing. And then you've got a little Games Master's screen kind of thing. It's kind of like the like a miniature DM screen from Dungeons and Dragons. And again, this has just got quick reference rules and the stats for all the monsters that are included in the main game. So again, really straightforward. That is basically the whole story to tell of what's in Heroquest. And like I say, I do have the expansions as well. So if you're interested in seeing a similar unboxing and look at what's in the expansions, we can do that. We can do them both together in one video, but they would make this video a bit longer. We'd be adding probably another 10 or 15 minutes to this video. So we're going to call it there for this one. But I hope you're as excited for Heroquest as I am. If you enjoyed this look at what's inside the box, don't forget to like the video, to consider subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications. And if you really like the content and want to help me to be able to keep on making it, don't forget to check out the link in the description to my Patreon, which starts from just £1 a month. I hope you enjoyed this one, folks. I'm going to get out of here, so thank you for watching. Happy hobbying, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now.